The Media 2010 conference in Sydney featured a diverse range of digital media professionals talking about everything from online advertising to shooting films with mobile phones. After the talks, we spoke with several of the speakers to get their take on the state of digital media.
Well, there's degrees of all of that. When someone reads your news, unless they remember it word for word and plagiarize it, then the core value of that news is the information in it, and they've consumed that. So the act of consumption is the act of effectively copying the information out of it. We're a news agency, so we wholly encourage our customers to copy our news. That's what we're there for. So we may be a special case. Online, I mean, again, it's by the time it's published online, the actual sort of value of that news as copyright is probably gone, because if someone reads it, the information is out there. I think that it's probably different with photos, which can have very long-lived value, and so I don't think we're ready to put high-resolution photos up for free for everyone to have. And similarly with video. Although video is just harder to manage overall, and there's an edit of raw footage is much more valuable than raw footage. So I think that the news industry, naturally news dies and then can pop up evergreen if it's a great event. But I just don't know, the word relinquish copyright probably has some legal connotation, and I wouldn't want to comment on that given I'm not a lawyer.
I think it's the wrong question to ask in many ways. It's not about whether you have copyright or you relinquish copyright so much as how do you find a model that works? How do you find a distribution model that works, an engagement model that works, a revenue model, and whether that means that you give your content away, you charge for it, or you let others have it. You know, that's what we're all struggling to figure out. So I think it's oversimplistic in a way to just say there should be no copyright and that's obsolete, or you should lock everything down and really just start suing people if they take more than 150 words of your article. So I think that sort of distracts us from the larger issue of figuring out how do we manage in this world where technology has changed the way people produce content, the way people access content, the way people create it, and the way they share it. So I'm not sure that we have the answers to that yet. I think that's what we're all struggling with.
I think there are just certain types of contents where it doesn't matter whether there's a copyright on it or not, because you can monetize them through advertisement wherever they're placed, especially video, right, or audio. But with text, it's kind of a difficult matter, and I'd like to see it, and again, not in an absolute way, but I'd like to see a model where newspapers can, just like Reuters does it, actually sell their contents to other places, because content has a high attention value, and through that, and if you get that attention, then it's your job to monetize it. It sounds all very easy from my point of view. If you're a news organization, it's harder. But I think from looking at how the internet develops right now, away from a domain-based model to a more personal, networked model, I think that news organizations should find a way to see their content or to distribute their content through an API. Of course, also in a way where they make money.
Yeah. So at the Times we have a series of APIs, and one of them is an article search API, where we're basically, you can query our article repository and get back search results on any topic or variety of topics, but we're only giving away headlines and summaries that link back to our site. We haven't really figured out a model yet where we can just let people take the full text and then just put it on their website and they never see a dime from it. We just haven't figured out a way to make that work. We do have syndication partners, just like Reuters, where we sell our feed and license our feed, but the idea of broadly distributing our content to everyone, we do headline and summary, and then we have certain restrictions and rules around that. But certainly I think there are models that will evolve that will allow us to be more open, not less.
If we could embed advertisement in full text, right?
Yeah,
Then
yeah, that's
you have especially the New York Times is
Right.
a fantastic position for
Yeah.
such a novel.
Yeah, one of the ones we looked at was the one of embedding ads, especially on let's say rich media like photos and videos, where you wouldn't enclose in the feed a reference to the actual photo. You would enclose in the feed some JavaScript that, when rendered in a browser, would render the photo, but perhaps with the surrounding advertising or a clickback and various other mechanisms.
Or actually plug in one of your e-commerce
We
modules.
had one thing when we developed the Spotlight, and it was our sort of our top trump defense if someone came and said you're destroying everything by doing this, was that people sufficiently technical to use the APIs in useful ways, where we said if somebody builds something rubbish, they're never going to get in the audience anyway. So say they build something useful. Anybody sufficiently technical to do that, who chooses to steal that content, could have stolen it by just writing a program that took the content from the website. So to some extent, we were just trying to make it easier to get the content.
And the other thing that's important as well is you should, when you create any form of content, you should try to, from the beginning, try to shape it in a way that it's hard to copy. My example was, big A0
was
black
fantastic,
posters
yeah.
and stuff. I really think in that way, or when you give away code, have it not on the HTML, CSS level.
Right.
Yeah, we have one of the guys who's one of our developers in New York. He wrote a book. I think it was the book about Lucene, the open source search engine. And he says the thing that annoys him is that the book keeps getting bought, but he knows it's being reprinted in China and people are just stealing it. I said, well, rule to yourself, next time you write another book, make all of the examples rather incendiary in a Chinese context, and therefore they won't dare copy your book in China.